Hey everybody, welcome back to Sorare First Pitch. I'm Alex Hooper. I'm getting the branding wrong. It's Sorare FP now, as we've moved on to NBA. There's no pitch in NBA. Nobody's pitching. So we're just FP. Fantasy points, fantasy projections, whatever you want to call it. It's Sorare FP. Anyway, either way, I'm Alex Hooper. I'm back. Talking NBA. I do miss MLB quite a bit, but I'm having a lot of fun with NBA, and we are winning a lot over at Sorare FP. A lot of tier twos. We're still waiting on our big podium day, but we'll get it. The amount of tier twos is insane. It's actually kind of surprising no one's won a tier one, or maybe one person's won a tier one quite yet. So we're trying to figure that out, trying to see how we can get into that next level. And that always involves an evolving process, and that's kind of what I'm here to talk about today. Other places will give you projections. Sorare FP gives you upside projections. It's my proprietary spin on median projections, basically taking into account shot volume and usage percentage, and trying to see where a player realistically can score on his best day. So the issue with that, as much as it's been, completely not an issue, it's been great. Again, we're winning a ton, but data can be misleading, and you have to know how to use the data. And we have a lot of the data over at Sorare FP, and these videos are kind of to try and help you figure out how to use them. So to get to my point, a lot of times you'll see lineups with very, very low L10 players, just hoping to get a certain amount of points out of them so they can play better players at the top. That can work, but it depends where you're doing it, how you're doing it, etc., etc. So, I have three pretty low L10 players projected quite high, relative to their L10, and I kind of want to just go through and talk about each of them. Let me share the right thing. For some reason, I can't pull it up. We're struggling. Here we go. Okay. Here it is. So, first player I want to talk about is Kai Jones. As you can see here on Sorare data, he is expected to play 22 minutes tonight for the against the Wizards for the Hornets. That's because, Gordon Hayward is missing. There's a bunch of people missing. So, as I head over to my projections, Kai Jones has my highest upside to L10 metric for the weekend. He's projecting at about 4.26 times his L10 of 7. So, as you can derive with math, he's projecting for about 29.8 points. Now, important thing to do in this situation is to look at former scores. We've got a 26 here in 27 minutes, so fewer minutes and a slightly lower score. Now, the actual results don't really tell you a ton. There's so much that could go into this. Maybe he shot poorly. Maybe, the metrics account for how often blocks and steals occur above league average when a player is on the floor for a certain amount of time. So maybe he just didn't get a couple of blocks. Projections are never going to be the end-all, be-all. Most of the time with upside projections, players are going to underperform them. Rarely will they outperform them. That's kind of how it's built. It's supposed to tell you like a 95th percentile outcome. So when you see a 26 for Kai Jones, that's close to his upside projection. It's above his median projection at this amount of minutes, and satisfactory, 26.4. That's perfectly fine. And then he followed it up once he was actually on our radar after this, 27-minute game without, I think Mason Plumlee was in foul trouble. He puts up a 17.2 in 21 minutes. He actually was, at like 7 or 9 late in the game. I played him. But the question here becomes, can a player with, at the time, I believe it was a 5 L10, who gives you 26 points, can you win with that player? Yeah, probably. But just looking at average scores, which we'll do in a second, does a 26 factor into any winning lineups, regardless of L10? I've been focusing a lot on points added. So instead of just, raw points and like, how can I stuff as many raw points into my lineup? It's how many points can I add per L10? Because then if you fill up your roster, you use, Luka, you just want to use the highest raw score that you can as your MVP. And then you want to add as many points within the 120. So say I play Luka, he puts up a 90 like he did this week. All right, I'm sitting on 90 points. If everybody performs to their L10, you're adding another 120 points in champion. So you're looking at 210 points. That's not going to win you a ton. So say on average, each player adds 25 points above their L10. Or in this case, we'll say 21, because Kai Jones scored 21 over his L10. So then you're adding 84 points over those other 4 players. And you're looking at 294, which in champion this week I think would put you about 28th. It's about where I was. 290, I think, is what I scored. And you're looking at a T2. So 21 added points per player at an L10 of 120 using your entire salary cap, as we'll call it. It puts you in a pretty decent position, but it sounds like you need about 25 added per player to get to, 315, 320, and score a tier 1 reward. So, excuse my dog, he's very unhappy with this new information. Okay, so that's looking at Kai Jones. Now he's at a 7 and projecting for 22 added points. So that's a T2 level addition in this case. Another player I wanted to look at I don't know if it's Devon or Davon Reed. Sorry, Mr. Reed. Coming in with the L10 of 5. I have his upside projection at 16. That's 11 added points. Those 2 points might allow you to get from, Kevin Durant to Giannis. That's a 1-point addition in median score and a 5-point addition in upside score. And you're leaving 13 points on the table from Reed to Jones, if they both hit their upside projections. Is that worth it? Is stuffing an L10 of 5 in your lineup going to help you that much? In the case of Reed versus Jones, taking 2 points to get from Reed to Jones, projection-wise, is going to do more for you than going up from KD to Giannis. That's pretty simple, pretty standard, pretty straightforward. Nothing horribly confusing there. So, then we're going to look at the star of the week, the star of this week, and perhaps the star of the upcoming week, depending on what happens with the Wolves. Jalen Noel came in at an 11 L10 last week. Jaden McDaniels was sick. Cat gets hurt, which, we were playing Noel already. And you can see by the chart exactly what's going on with our friend, Mr. Noel. I'm very glad to have gotten in here. But I will be playing him instead of selling him because I think he gives me a better chance to win more than the .02 that I would get from flipping him. So let's look at his scores. On an L10 of 11, we were kind of just in this lucky 10 area here where not much was going on, and that was suppressing things. Here's the minutes. Go up, 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 and look at the way that score goes up. 41. That's plus 30. Now he's on 12. We're projecting him for 42. That's plus 30. So between Knoll and Jones and Reed, you go from Reed to Jones to Knoll, you go from 5 to 7 to 12 L10. Upside projections, you go from 16 to 29 to 42. Knoll is almost worth himself, Reed and Jones put together, if they all hit their upside projections. Again, Knoll is a little questionable because McDaniels might come back, but still you're looking at, I don't know, a 30 is still that same amount of added points to Kai Jones. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for added points. $25 minutes, 25. Okay, so he's still projecting for 25 minutes down the road, which he had 31 against the Grizzlies, probably because he was balling, and he'll probably play more. Okay, so let's look at some lineups, shall we? Here are the lineups from this week. Champion. All right. It's a Simons, I assume. Simons, Trent, Sexton, Giannis, Luka, and Anthony Edwards. Allow me to, because I can actually do this now. I'm going to pull up L10s from last week. So we can look at how many added points we're getting from each of these spots. Okay. Pulling it up now. Sorry we're doing this live. I didn't anticipate doing this part. Okay. So we're just going to do a quick search for, again, I think that's Anthony Simons. Simons coming in with an L10 of 39. So you're looking at a plus 23 there. Let me make sure that that's actually him. Yes, it is. Okay, yeah. So plus 23.2. Gary Trent on a 24, that's a plus 30. So we're looking at, 53 added points. Sexton should be right around. Use a 18, so that's 12, thus 65. 35 for Edwards, so he added another 33. I'm losing count here. I think we're at 96. So that's your big one right there. Anthony Edwards with the plus 33. And then Doncic, I think, was a plus 32. Yeah. So 23. What did we say on Trent? 30. So you're looking at about 130 added points. Doncic doesn't count because he's an MVP. Basically, you're adding 90 points there. Like I said, your MVP should be the highest raw points scorer. That's where you're going to be in a winning position. But the key here was the number 2 guy was Edwards with a plus 33 and Trent with the plus 32. So those are the numbers that you're looking for. Now, if you can get 65 added points by playing a guy like Kai Jones, who, all right, so he adds 22, who are you going to play that adds 41? And luckily, over at Sorare FP, we have points added in our spreadsheet now. I'll show you how to do that real quick so you can see what kind of value you can get from us. Sorry, I got too many damn windows open. All right. Let's share Excel. Okay. So over at Sorare FP, you come over here. Weekend upside minus L10. That's going to be points added. I could probably make it a little clearer. All right. So where are you going to add 41 points for what? 30? Boom. Right there. Zion. 34. Upside projection of 79. You're looking at 45 added points. Pair him with Noel and Nick Claxton and Markelle Fultz and Zach Collins. I don't know if... Let's see. Can you make a contender lineup out of that? Okay, actually it's 120 points. So Luka Doncic plus Zion plus Claxton, Noel, and Collins. Or did I add Fultz too? Let's try that again. Plus 34. Okay, no. So you would need something less. So how do you get down an extra 10? You could realistically add Kai Jones. But then you're looking at, you need to shave 10 points. And if you shave, 17 off of Fultz or 15 off of Collins, then all of a sudden you're lacking in the raw points department. So that's what you have to make match. The added points in an optimal lineup, and then whatever you can do with the extra L10 that's left over that you can still fit onto a team, at that point, you just try to add as many raw points as you can. Because the added points don't matter as much if you can add raw points within that value, if you understand what I'm saying. So, if the optimal lineup for added points above L10 comes to, say, 100 points in contender, then you can find your least added points or your lowest value and try to increase their raw points. So wherever you can get the most raw points above the person adding the points, even if you've had the L10, you don't get it back. You don't get the L10 back. So hopefully that's clear. Okay, so let's go back to this other page. Now, we talked about champion. I know I kind of shifted a little bit there and talked about contender. So we were looking at these champion lineups. Let's look at contender. And I shut out of what I downloaded. Okay. So, Reggie Jackson, Jonas, Bagley. Reggie Jackson. 23. All right, we got an added 30. Jonas Valanciunas added just 9. Bagley is the broken image. Added 20, so you're looking at 59. Grimes added 28. I've lost track. And then Ayton's 23, I'm pretty sure. I played him. No. 30. All right. So yeah, a lot of added points there. That's where it matters. This is more... this can go either way. Contender is tough because contender is going to be a lot about team construction. You can squeeze a lot more, as a Zion with that 41 points added or whatever, we were 45, I think, above his L10. You can stuff him into one of these, and then you can pair him with Kai Jones or whatever, and you can really maximize it, because I guess this is just a case where it's you can really optimize with the points added, like you can really stuff those in here and rely on that a little more because there's 5 spots and it's so much harder to do. This is just so much about team makeup, though. Like, I think more often than not, you're going to see a guy. So, like, Quentin Grimes had an 8L10. I think more often than not, you're going to see, like, you need a close to single-digit L10 here, because then you can squeeze in a bunch of guys in their 30s. Like you see Ant Edwards here, some of the same guys, but Grimes in the top 2. I mean, he added 28 points off a 9L10, and that allows you to get to a guy like Ayton, who's a 29, or Williamson, who's a 34 last week, I think. It's all about where, like, what L10s really open up another guy in that 30 to 35 range. That's where you see a lot of guys who can go off but don't always go off. And we've talked about that on the Sorare Data Show a lot. Like, that is my favorite range here. So, for example, like Jeremy Grant's a 40. He can go for 70. Jaren Jackson, I think, right now is the most valuable player on the platform, although I think his stats are a little inflated from low sample size. DeJounte Murray's down to a 35. Jamal Murray's at a 35. Zion at that 34. Devin Vassell at 33. Kevin Porter at 33. Alperen Sengun at 32. Like, if you can fit more of these guys in your lineup, I think you just have a higher upside shot. Like, there's a 60, he just drops a 64, 48, 49. Like, that's still plus 17. And if those margins are a little smaller at the top, you're still getting a ton of raw points from getting these guys into your lineup. So, Kevin Porter, again, 33. He dropped a bunch of 60s and 50s right there. So, just, you unlock a little extra upside by finding the guy at the bottom in Contender. I think that's where you win. But I think you play them in Contender. That's been a lot of it. Just seeing my screen now, probably. I think that's a lot of it. You got to know where to play them. Like, play Jaden Knoll in Champion if it allows you to get to another, like, guy that we were just looking at, like a Sengun or Porter. Don't play him over, a good solid 20 just because it gets you up, like, from KD to Giannis or Jokic to Giannis or something like that. Like, if you can't add a ton of points in a certain spot, then it's not always worth it to play those low L10 guys. Generally, you can leverage them because your average L10 across the board in Contender is going to be a little more concise. So, like, you can play a bunch of 20s and hope they go off, or you can find the Knoll who adds 30 points and allows you to get from a guy in the low 20s to, like, a Sengun or a Porter who can drop a 60, and then all of a sudden they're adding, 20, 30 points. It's all about where you can upgrade, not just stuffing as much in as possible. Playing Kai Jones and Knoll so you can roll out Doncic, Giannis, and Jokic doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense because the ceiling above their L10s is not that big. If in 1 week, it's going to change. If in 1 week you have a guy who should have a much higher L10 than they do, so let's see, like a Pascal Siakam maybe, he's still at 50, that's not a great example. Damian Lillard's at a 41, and he can go off for 80. Like, maybe that makes a little more sense, but that's the range that you kind of want. That's where you can get a bunch of added points. I do think Giannis is great this week. I think his L10 has become suppressed enough, and I think getting Chris Middleton back is going to unlock him. So it's case by case. But Giannis at a 49 is kind of bananas. Yeah, so hopefully I'm making sense. It's all about what you can add at a certain tier, and I still love those low 40s, high 30s guys in Champion, and definitely the mid 30s to low 30s who can go for a nice 50, 60 in Contender. I think that's where you want to optimize instead of just stuffing as many raw points in. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense. If you have any questions, drop it here in the comments. Yeah, head on over to Sorare FP, man. The Discord is great. We got a lot of great minds in there, and we are winning. It's been fun. It's been fantastic. It's nice to have a little assurance that what we're doing is working. So that's that. Don't just stuff low L10 guys because it allows you to add more stars. Unless their ceiling is so much higher than their L10 at that moment, probably not worth it. So head on over, patreon.com/SoRareFP. We can figure this all out together. But until then, we'll talk to you.